God, we thank you for this. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this church and this community. We thank you for Tioga County Rural Ministry and for Sister Mary, and we're glad that she is here tonight with us. We pray that you will be with us in our time together and that you will guide our listening and our learning and our conversation. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We are very happy to have Sister Mary here, and very soon we'll let her talk and share with you. But as we begin thinking about the Bible and people who are poor, and we have a little handout, and I thought maybe we could actually go around, and if you're willing to read, if you read the next one down, and if you don't want to read, just elbow the person next to you and make them and poke them or something.
Just have to throw something.
William, do you want to start, or is that okay? Just
sure.
like the Exodus one at the top.
Okay, Exodus 22, verse 25. If you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, you shall not deal with them as a creditor. You shall not exact interest from them.
That's the basis of Habitat for Humanity, doesn't charge interest for the loans on houses.
Leviticus 19, 33 and 34. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself.
Deuteronomy 15, 10 to 11. Give liberally and be ungrudging when you do so. For on this account, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in all that you undertake. Since there will never cease to be some in need on the earth, I therefore command you, open your hand to the poor and needy neighbor in your land.
Psalms,
We have Bruce back there.
Psalm 68, 5. Father of orphans and protector of widows is God in his holy habitation.
Proverbs 19, verse 17. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord and will be repaid in full.
Isaiah 58, verse 10. If you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness.
Jeremiah chapter 5, verses 27 to 28. Like a cage full of birds, their houses are full of treachery. Therefore they have become great and rich. They have grown fat and sleek. They know no limits in deeds of wickedness. They do not judge with justice the cause of the orphan, to make it prosper, and they do not defend the rights of the needy, and your gloom be like the noonday.
Matthew 19, 21. Jesus said to him, if you wish to be perfect, go sell your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me.
Matthew 25, 37 to 40. Jesus said, then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it when we saw you sick or in prison and visited you? And the king will answer them, truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters of mine, you did it to me. So Jim, if you could do Luke 3.
Luke 3:11. In reply, he said to them, whoever has two coats must share with anyone who has none. And whoever has food must be likewise.
James 1:27. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world.
Cheryl? No.
James 2, 1 to 4. My brothers and sisters, do not claim the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ of glory while showing partiality. For if a person with gold rings and in fine clothes comes into your assembly, and if a poor person in dirty clothes also comes in, and if you take notice of the one wearing the fine clothes and say, have a seat here in a good place, please, While to the one who is poor you say, stand there, or sit by my footstool, have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts?
Okay, each one of these could be a Bible study for an hour in itself, but we're not going to do that. The only thing I'd like to say is these kinds of things are all through the Bible. And if you just do a Google search for the Bible and people who are poor, the Bible and poverty or wealth, justice, those kinds of things, you will find hundreds and hundreds of these. So I guess this is just a little bit of what the Bible has to say, but it gives you an idea that this is a theme that goes all the way through. On the back of it, I just wanted to show you a couple things. We have what the Presbyterian Church and also what two different popes have said. The Confession in 1967, Bruce, you want to say something real quick about that?
That's in our church constitution. This confession is on equal authoritative level as the Apostles' Creed. It was adopted, can you guess what year? 1967. And they intentionally did that to show that any statement of faith will be impacted by when it was done. And global poverty was one of the 4 social issues that gets mentioned in this document. And it is filled, if you look at the commentary, with biblical references. The last line is the most challenging. A church that is indifferent to poverty or evades responsibility in economic affairs, or is open to only one social class only, or expects gratitude for its benevolence, makes a mockery of reconciliation and offers no acceptable worship to God. That's pretty strong language.
Yes, it is.
It's actually found in the book of Amos. You will find, God was very clear that it's not enough to do the visual acts of worship, but it must be lived out in compassion for those in need.
And so, again, this is based in the Bible. As Bruce said, you can go find all these Bible references to where they got this stuff from. And saying that this really matters. This stuff really is important. The Pope Francis quote, it's not a quote, but it's just a little something about, he obviously cared very much about people who are poor. But I just found this very interesting. This was back from June 5th, 2013. And he denounced, this was just a little news report, what he called a culture of waste in an increasingly consumeristic world. And he talked about throwing away good food was like stealing from poor people. And I just thought that was interesting that he lifted that up. That, we have so much stuff, such an abundance that we just go to the store and we buy stuff. And you think about our maybe grandparents' generation that was careful. If there were leftovers in the fridge, you had leftover night, you used it all up and you were careful not to waste it. And you heard about the starving kids and wherever. And, it was, people make jokes about it, but it was a real thing that there was a matter of stewardship of food. And he was pointing out that, wasting food, just like, whatever, is a sin, and it's stealing it from the poor. And then most recently, Pope Leo 14th, you may have heard about his
How's your Latin? Can you pronounce that one?
Dilexite.
You got it.
There you go.
She studied Latin.
I had Latin in high school. I guess it comes back a little bit. But this is not the whole thing. You can go online, you can just type it in and do a search for it. And it's fascinating reading, and it'd be worth your read. But again, you look at the key teachings in this paragraph, and it emphasizes love for the poor is inseparable and central aspect of the Christian faith. And it says a condition for salvation. At the bottom of the second paragraph, the Pope also includes migrants among the poor, stating they represent Christ. Views caring for the poor. The Pope Leo 14th views caring for the poor as essential to the Church's mission and a source of renewal. So the point is, this is not some little add-on like, we live out our Christian faith, and by the way, if we feel like it, or if we, want to, we'll do some care for people in poverty. This is central to what the Church teaches. And many different churches, Catholic Church, Presbyterian Church, many other churches. And with that, Sister Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that prayer. Appreciate it. So one quote that you didn't, there are so many in scripture, but Pope Leo mentioned this in the first part of his exhortation, and he referenced the book of Exodus. I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt, in Owego, in Gaza. You name the place and just slip it in for Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings, and I have come to deliver them. How does God come to deliver? A little bit like yesterday, you and me and the people of the First Presbyterian Union Church delivering 906 pounds of food for people who are in need. It's so many small and large and huge things that, and many, many small things that we do for one another, that we show our care for one another, and definitely the care for the poor. So from all those readings that Carolyn just shared with us, as well as this one, we're in the right path in our faith life if we're on the side of the poor. It's a good check for us. Where am I? How am I doing? We always had these examen. When I first started religious life, we'd have this examen every night. It's sort of similar to what we can sometimes do with our night prayer. How and in what way have I been or shown the face of God with the poor? Who was the poor that I saw or visited or spoke to today? They're always there before us. I thought I'd start today with SNAP, since SNAP has been pretty front and central these days. So SNAP recipients, who are they? Most of them, 1 in 3, are SNAP recipients. It is the most effective program, anti-hunger program we have ever had, according to Feeding America. 2 and I said 1 in 3, it's really 2 in 3. Most of the people are working, or in the households, it's mostly 1 or 2 adults who are working. Who receives the benefits? It's the frail elderly, it's children, and it's the disabled. Those are the 3 key recipients of SNAP funds. Today I was meeting with Galen and we were looking over financial assistance requests. And one of the recipients
Could you
was,
tell people who Galen is in case? they
oh,
don't know?
thank you. So Galen is a young man who works with us, who is our outreach service coordinator. Does a fabulous job. Galen meets with anyone requesting financial assistance. So all referrals go through him. And when he meets with them, he does a financial intake. And that he looks at all their income, he looks at all their expenses. And then when he meets with me on Tuesdays, he'll say, 77-year-old woman who lives in Waverly, she has, her income is $1,300. She receives $23 in SNAP funds
A month.
She's plus or minus. She's plus 200. She's minus 200. They're minus 400. They're plus, we look at that all of the time, and then look at the complexion of the household to see, is there anyone in the household who could be working, who isn't working? Is there, how are they expending their funds? Are they using them? We had a request today from a woman, I've forgotten exactly what age, she's in her 70s, and we denied her request because she is coming time after time after time, and she's spending $300 a month on cigarettes. And at some point in time, although we cite this each time, there is no effort on her behalf to cut down. And she said, I'm going to die with a cigarette in my hand. Well, okay, but we're receiving funds from people who are sacrificing to make contributions to us so that we can share them with other people. We take that very seriously. That is our act of stewardship. So we have people who donate $8.34 a month, $10 a month, $5 a month, and you look at that, and I look at that the same as a $100 a month or whatever. That these are people who are sacrificing, and they're expecting that we will make good decisions about how we utilize our money. And you know, you never want to say no to anyone, but at some point in time, when people do not use their funds well or wisely, you have to just, sorry, you know, we just can't keep on doing this. We had a couple people today who are in a motel kind of situation, and the husband does not want to work. He said, no, I'm not going to work. So, you know, you have to look at all of these things to get full and total picture of how the income is going in or coming out. So with SNAP, as I said, most of the people are working. We have in this county very few SNAP fraud cases. I double checked with, I'm on the advisory commission for the commissioner and have been for 13 years.
Commissioner
And-
DSS.
Right.
And each year, I always ask John, what about fraud? Do we have any fraud? And he said, close to nothing. So this time I was more specific and said, what about SNAP fraud? And he said, minuscule. Some years we have absolutely none. Other years there might be a little. And he said, where the fraud would exist, he said, there's so many catch points that that they get the data in, and you know, you just can't do it because they have such good data. Where the fraud typically will come is if there's an estranged couple and one of the husband or wife or partner will say, but she's doing such and such, and they bring that to the fore. So there's minimal. According to the USDA, every dollar that is spent on tax on SNAP, using SNAP funds, generates $1.54 in economic activity. So that goes to our retailers, it goes to the community shop, to John's Fine Foods, it goes to our farmers, it goes to local retailers. It's a win-win program. So we have that, and then we have what Bruce sent me, the most recent article from The Hill.
This is the congressional newspaper.
So this was November 14th. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins on Thursday said, the Trump administration is planning to have all Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program beneficiaries reapply for the program due to alleged fraud. Now the secretary said, after receiving data on SNAP recipients from 29 red states, that 186,000 deceased men and women and children in this country are receiving a check. That's kind of like a reprise of all the dead voters who voted for Biden. Where did they suddenly come up with 186,000 people? Can you imagine when we get our hands on the blue state data, what we're going to find? So if you ever want to scapegoat someone scapegoat the poor. It's always the
Right.
poor.
They
We
don't-
always hear about the welfare abuse, about the people sitting in their couches and raking in money for doing nothing. And now we're hearing the same with SNAP funds. Some of the data that we'll look at defies that. So Secretary Rollins wants to ensure that the fraud, the waste, and incessant abuse of SNAP ends. And later goes on to say that they have recently arrested 120 Americans. And she told CNN the program was corrupt. These are the things that we're uncovering that for years no one has ever really dug into, because the feds didn't have the system in place to do it, but we do now. So it's that arrogant. And, you know, it's only the rich who can be arrogant about the poor. But we hear it time and time again, and it's the blame game all the time. When in doubt, blame the poor. They must be abusing something. And the reality is that with SNAP funding, every month they're reassessed. You know, they're reviewed. Sean said that every 6 months, a very small contingent of people are reviewed. Other than that, they're recertified every single year. Now that happens across the United States, the recertification process. So you have to have your ducks in a row each time. Oops.
Mary, do you know what the average SNAP recipient gets in this county? It changes geographically in different parts of the country, and
I just read that, and it's in around $323
for one
It
person.
might be $20 off on that, but I just read that stat. So we see people, a lot of frail elderly, who get the $23 minimum. And then people with children get the most. So that can range up to $900. We have one person who's got 9 children, single woman, head of household, and she gets 900 some odd dollars.
Which is like $30 a day to feed how many mouths?
To feed all of those children. And, you know, when we were facing no SNAP in November, I kept thinking about the people who depend upon that, especially the single people who have children. When we look at their stats, we're looking the only money that they spend is SNAP money. The other money goes toward necessary things. So going back to when we review requests, when people are 200 to the good or 400 to the good, think about that. So what happens when your car breaks down? What happens when you get a knee fixed and you get a fourth of your normal income? What do people do? If they're working, they put it in their car, and then they come to us and say, can you help us with the rent? We're behind on our rent. So they make hard choices all the time because they just don't have the wherewithal for anything else. So with food, if you don't have the money for food, where are you going to put it on? You're going to put it on all the starches, put it on macaroni and cheese and all the fattening kind of foods, the low carb, low protein kinds of foods instead of other foods or fruit and vegetables that could help people to flourish. Let's take a look at the stat sheet that we have. So, if you could share that on the screen, it would be helpful.
All right. We can do it.
No,
Mary, who is Sean referring to?
pardon?
You were
Oh,
referring to-
I'm
Commissioner of
sorry.
Social Services.
Sean Yetter. So he's a commissioner and really, I don't know how many, Sean is retiring this year. And we have been so blessed by his service in this county. I have worked in a number of counties and never have I worked so closely with the Department of Social Services than with this one.
Mhm.
Anytime we have any questions, sometimes we'll have people who come to us and say, I'm having trouble with my food stamps. And we have one gentleman who uses that each month. So we'll send a note to Kelly and say, what about such and such? No problem with his food stamps, he's doing fine. Okay, all right, so then I can
Right.
talk and say, so that
Yeah.
excuse didn't exactly work this time around. But that's the kind of relationship that
That's
we
good
have.
to,
And we have about every 6 weeks or so, we have a partners meeting. One of the DSS reps comes to that meeting. Now, that, first of all, the Department of Social Services is really, they don't have enough staff. They don't have enough people applying for their jobs, and they're short-staffed. So to give up a staff person for a
Mhm.
couple hours is just a tremendous thing. And we're the recipients of that, because any questions that the group has as they meet, and sometimes it might be one particular case that they're looking at, and everybody has a piece of the story. And if we can get the answer right away when we have a staff person there. So Sean, I've been back and forth with him ever since we've been looking at what's going on with SNAP. And so I keep texting him, or he'll text me back or tell me what's going on. And so that relationship has been a really strong one for being and for us as a county. He goes, this group of workers, they really go the extra mile. When we do the homeless count, usually it's January 29th. It's one of the coldest days of the year. It's always the end of January. And one of their workers always goes out with us. In the coldest night, they're out there looking for people who are homeless. You don't always see that. In fact, I was talking with Galen again today. We have a gentleman who's homeless, who's a really wonderful young man, but he had a very bad experience with DSS in Binghamton. And so he has this, I don't want to go there. And Galen said, I'll go with you, you know. So it's that kind of a thing that you have to understand where people are and to trust their own experiences. And when it's been a difficult experience, if we can lessen the stress and help in a more beneficial way, that's what we want to do. So with these statistics, first of all, food pantry. We do a contrast. We have this wonderful thing that was given to us by one of our donors, and it's called Salesforce, which is, I don't know what the cost is, but I know it's a very costly form of gathering information. So our board looks at these figures all of the time. And once we do an end of the year, up to end of the fiscal year and an end of the calendar year review of all of our statistics. And so I'm always eager to throw in the other years when I get the thing in. And so just if you look at the changes from January from 2023 to 2025. And flip down there, and I'm sorry for the folks who can't see this. Yeah, kind of.
At the bottom one?
Yeah, it's not.
The line here.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, just the line.
But I'll say a few of the quote of the numbers, and most importantly, I want to note the last numbers. So in October of 2023, we had 200 people who came to our food pantry. In 2024, it was 168 households. In 2025, 291.
No.
44.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm flipping. So 344. So the difference for us between 2024 and 344 in 25 is we were moving last October. And so we were closed for 2 weeks.
Right.
So that cut that number down.
Sure.
So in November, so we are right now, you see the high numbers in November, 316 in 2023, 397 in 2024. In 2025, the first week, 11/3 through 11/7, we had 154 families in week 1.
I think you're going to surpass.
Yeah, and the second week it was 89, but so far it's 243 families in 2 weeks. Those are rather astounding numbers and really pretty scary numbers. We were running out of food. You know, I was running off to Aldi and we ran out of corn. We ran out of beans. I checked the prices at Price Chopper. We couldn't get food at the food bank either because they were pressed. Everybody's running to the food bank. We ended up driving there on Friday so we would have enough food for Monday. But I ran to Aldi. Well, I checked the price. It was 4 for $5 at Price Chopper. I went to Aldi and they had corn and green beans for 50 cents a can.
All right. Yeah.
I talked to the food bank people today and I said, the cheapest we could get it at the food bank was 68 cents. I said, you better shop at Aldi.
Yeah.
And Aldi's also donates to you, right?
Pardon?
Aldi's also donates some to you as well, right?
Aldi, we are currently receiving food. So I think many of you know that we used to receive a lot of food from Grand Union.
Yes.
And Grand Union didn't have a lot of customers, so we had a lot of food, and it was wonderful. And we have for years been receiving meat from Price Chopper. We would go once or twice a week and receive meat there. Once the food bank hired a person who would be try to get food from all the various retail people. She goes around to all various, from the Dollar General to Price Chopper, Grand Union, wherever, trying to food rescue. So when we lost Grand Union, we talked to her about receiving food from Aldi and Chow. We started well, you don't purchase food from Chow. Chow very graciously, they're in Binghamton, and they deliver. They started recently, the past couple of years, delivering to people in Tioga County at no expense.
Wow.
I mean, they
Wow.
deliver for free and we get the food for free. I don't understand it, but we're very, very grateful. So sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's
Yeah.
not.
Mhm.
But what we've come up with as a plan is to, they pick up food 2 times a week. 1 week, the food comes to us, and 1 week it goes to Catholic Charities. And they deliver. So, you know, we never know what we're getting. Sometimes it's food that's just, you know, a thing is opened up, or a lot of times it's perfectly fine food. It's just that the box is smashed a little, or, you know, whatever. But we get a lot of really nice food from those places. We're also now picking up from Dollar General.
Nice.
And they have surprising kinds of things that, you know, they have a lot of canned food and whatnot that we get from them. We've had one of our volunteers picking up for years there. And the branch manager just did it out of the kindness of her heart. She was kind of going against the grain with the rules, but we were still the recipients. So that's a huge thing for us, because one of the things that we want to do is we think dignity is about choice, offering choice, in offering variety. So with the food bank deals with different vendors, and pretty much it's the same old, same old. So I'll look at the menu and say boring. You know, you just want something different. So when we get the meat from Price Chopper, we're thrilled, because we get anything from steak to, you know, to hamburger, to you name it, fish, all kinds of things. And sometimes great big ones. So I had a fellow come in yesterday. Well, it was actually his wife who came in. They've got 9 kids. And he's on disability. Well, he's not on disability yet, but he hurt his back. And ever since the end of August, he's just been receiving partial pay. So they're just way down. So I look for big pieces of meat. What about this? I got pork spare ribs. Yes. What about this ham? Okay. So it's really wonderful to be able to share that kind of thing with the people that we serve. And we just love doing that. So the next grid here is the financial assistance, which is really, it's unfortunate, but I'll give you one of these, and if anyone would like a copy of it at another time, Carolyn, you can give it out to people. But at the end of 2024, when I was looking at the statistics that across the board, I was looking at full-time employed people and part-time employed people. And all along through the years, my 13 years, there were, I was always proud that we had part-time employed people, you know, with people, well, they're sitting on their couches and blah, 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 blah. So we kept those statistics, and the most we ever had who were part-time and full-time employed, the number was 7.
Wow.
And then we moved to 2024, and the number jumped to 195. And even though our board looks at these statistics every month, I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So from then on, if you look at these statistics, we typically used to have financial assistance requests for 26 was a big, good sized month. 26 to 28 was our usual. Then you can see in this, in March, it jumped to 42, April 49, May 48. Now these are all people that Galen would meet with in the course of a month. That's a lot of
There's a lot of
people.
people to talk to and go through.
Next to that, how many of the families, we have a wonderful board and they ask great questions. So one board member said, well, how many are new families? Because you think same old coming each month. So then we looked at the stats and we were shocked by them because in January, 13 of the 26 who were requesting funds were new, had never asked for funds from us before. 18 of the 26 were full-time employed. February, 26 families, 12 were new, 12 full-time employed. You see on the right, you see the small number now is the part-time employed, 4, 4, 3, 4, 6, 1. So we went in March from 42 to April 49, May 48, June 39, and the numbers are going down a little bit. In September, they went down to 20 because we closed financial assistance for 2 weeks. Galen was on vacation and we just said, we just can't do
Mary,
it.
is this all 2024, did you say?
Yeah. So you,
Those 25.
25,
Those are missing
25.
25.
20 and 25.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you
So
said
that's when the big change happened.
Mhm.
So when you look at the figures, looking at June, we had 39 families asking for financial assistance. 19 of them were new. 20 of them were full-time employed. So, and then going down, almost half
Mhm.
are full-time employed. That is
Yeah.
just startling.
Mhm.
But what's a living wage full-time?
Right.
Well, then
Not
we
what
had
they're
a
making.
person who asked that question. And did I bring that sheet? No.
Well, you're right. What we started seeing is what is the-
1675.
what is the average that they're making,
Right.
and it's not living wage.
So one of them, like I think it was this past month, the average, so what Galen does of all the requests that come in and all those who are working for full-time, he'll look at, okay, so what's the average of all those requests that come in? $20 was the last one, $20 an hour.
Mhm.
Still at $20 an hour, a family's not making. So
Cheryl, how much is a rental for, you have rentals and stuff. How much do people spend on housing around here?
Well, Sister Mary is gonna know that better than I do. I mean, ours are too low, probably.
the housing is incredible.
It's hard.
The
Biggest problem.
prices are, we had last month, somebody living on Page at $12.50 a month. And I'm like, $12.50 a month on Page Street?
Yeah.
Um, Waverly is the highest area, 1,500,
Oh, I didn't
1,600
realize
a
that
month.
Waverly-
I was surprised.
You know, you
It's
just look
crazy.
at the numbers and you think,
Crazy.
It's the it's the gas in Pennsylvania. The people are living cheap in
Oh,
Waverly.
right.
Pushes it up
People
a
are
little
living cheap in Waverly.
Yeah,
well,
You know, it's the-
you know, they're at
Not
that
the
$7.25 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah, your clients, I'm saying, what's driving the price up in Waverly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's driving the price
Is the
up is
gas.
people with money
Have been able to move into Waverly.
who are
Yeah.
who are going into the.
Right. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, but it's pretty astounding. So these numbers, I think, really are, we just had that question asked about how much are they making? So one question of one of our new board members was, what are you considering full-time employed? So fair
Yeah.
question. So I asked Galen, what are you considering? And he said, 32 hours is my base.
okay.
We work 35 hours a week, so it's pretty close.
Mhm.
Some of us do.
right.
Would be nice.
Yeah, but it's just it's pretty striking. So when we started, so when he asked that question, we
Mhm.
look at it for the past 4 months, we have been looking at the figures. How much are they making per hour? And we're hoping that once we have that data for a full year, that will be remarkable data just to share with our legislators,
Mhm.
because, you know, everybody thinks until they try to live the life of a person who's poor or live on the income that one has, they don't understand. Everybody knows that our prices are going up. Everybody knows that the utility bills are going through the roof. And next year, currently, we've got NYSEG asking for another
Right,
increase. It's going to be the increase on your income on electricity and heating. So I had Galen look at one of our bills. And the change for the delivery charge would be, they were charged $18.71 for their electric delivery, and it would now be $25.26 with the increase. With the gas, they were paying $17.34, now $24.17.
It's non-negotiable.
You know,
Right.
so we're going up about a little over $13, $13.50 for
A month. Yeah.
each month.
Yeah.
And the heating assistance isn't, people can't apply for it yet. It's
No.
pushed
Oh,
back
we're
because
waiting
of
to
the
see.
government shutdown and everything.
So the other thing that happened with SNAP is SNAP recipients also receive HEAP. If you receive SNAP, you automatically receive HEAP. So normally HEAP comes out the first week of the month in November. It's usually, you know, whatever the first Monday is, your HEAP is coming out. So guess what's happening?
Mhm. Before, yeah.
Joy.
And since that time, we have received 84 phone calls about fuel
Utility,
assistance.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they have mail.
Yeah, sure.
84.
Mhm.
And Galen, I said, did you really receive that many? He brought in his sheet. He said,
Yeah.
"And
Did you
each
really?"
of the calls. And, you know, 84. I mean, that is just
Yeah.
remarkable.
Mhm.
Before this, you know, before we knew about the shutdown and all that, DSS had called me up and said, you know, with the projections that people are going to be losing some of their SNAP benefits in 2026 and 2027, what can you do for us? So here's the
There you
government
go.
calling
Asking
up a
how
little non-for-profit,
Right.
saying, what can you
you
do?
do. Oh dear, right.
So, you know, it's quite astounding, this world that we're living in. And we're so dependent on the
Mary, do you have any insight of how many homeless families we have in our county?
well, you know, we have some good things happening. There's the SOS program, Save Our, I always think it's a funny acronym, but anyways, this program is being run. It was run in Brooklyn, and very, very successful in Brooklyn. And then Cortland County picked it up and is running it there, again, very successful. And now RSS Rehabilitation Support Services is kind of shepherding it, and we're doing it in Tioga County. And so what that is typically there's about 11 or 12 where they have funds. Any homeless person who's willing to work with them, they will find housing for them. They will find landlords, and the landlords suddenly appear because they know that they're going to get paid, because they're going to get government funds. And they have a counselor who works with them. So the first thing they do is they bring them into an apartment, and once they're all willing to do a abide by all the rules and regulations, no drugs, no alcohol. Here's your apartment. They get them food to fill their apartment. They know that the homeless population has been their community, so they educate them about how do you, what are your interests? Do you like crafts? Do you like fishing? So then they check out those opportunities and they connect them with those opportunities. They bring them into their home and say, you know, what kind of artwork do you like? Let's put up some pictures. What would you like? And so they'll help them and they'll decorate their home. And they'll do all these various things. And what I've seen, now I don't know who's on it, but I know by behavior who's on it. So one woman who has never spoken to me other than to give grunt and not be happy with me, suddenly I'm walking down the street and she's saying, "Hi, Sister Mary, how are you today?" I'm like, and her hair is combed and she has shampooed her hair and the same thing. So you can tell we have another person who has been homeless for a long, long time. She now has an apartment.
Oh, good.
And an elderly woman who just for years hasn't had it. And again, she washes her hair and you see a new person. And so they visit them at least once a week and check them out, see what's happening, how things are going, what are they doing, how are they interfacing. Here are some people that you can go to visit. Here's a community program where you can get a meal. Here's what Renewal Ranch is doing. Here when their meals are, all of those kinds of things. Most of them are utilizing the services of Renewal Ranch.
Okay.
The people whose names I was seeing in the Penny Saver are no longer in the Penny Saver. So, you know, I look at those names because a lot of them people I know, but they're not there. And it's really heartening. And Galen and I met with one of the counselors last 2 weeks ago.
From the SOS.
In the SOS, you know, just to say, you know, how's it going? And I said, well, what do you do? Because he's male, obviously. And I had heard that he was the only Tioga County person. He said, oh, I get help from another county. I don't go in with a house with a woman. You know,
Right.
I get a woman
Make it
to
right.
do that.
Help them out. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You have to be careful, right?
Yeah. So that I think has really been a blessing, just seeing that. And I'm hopeful that will continue. They're also working in conjunction with Catholic Charities. So Catholic Charities has a federally funded program where they can work with people for a full year. They can put them up in one of their shelters, either in Appalachian or in Newark Valley. Or they can help them by finding shelter for them, an apartment for them, and help them find a job. We had a fella who came to us and through a Catholic Charities program, and he lost everything with a scam, everything. And he had a wonderful job and was making good money, and just suddenly had nothing. So he was a great person to be working with them. And he got an apartment, and then we got him something to sleep on and some, you know, toiletries and whatnot. So we had some of the basics. He ultimately got a job in Pennsylvania for $34 an hour using the skills that he had. So it's a wonderful program for all kinds of things like that. And that they are working hand in hand with Catholic Charities is really good.
We're getting close to 8. Maybe we should go for questions or.
Questions.
I'm good till 10 o'clock, but.
No.
everybody-
I'm a
Always
proponent
asking
of ending on time.
Never,
So
never a problem.
so what questions either in the room or online? she's very comprehensive, I know, so maybe you don't have any, but
Where does the funding for SOS come from?
New York
Very
State,
deep
you know,
dive.
we are blessed to be in New York State. We are also blessed to, like, with the SNAP funding, Kathy Hochul was the first one to say, we're going to fund this. When the administration was saying, no, we're gonna, you know, you use up your own money. We are blessed really to be in New York State because some of the states, and unfortunately they happen to be some of the red states, they don't accept money that could be coming to them and could help their people. When you don't help your people, there's something wrong when there's government funding available. So it is a government program. It has a period of time.
I just have a difference. I think we got too dependent on the federal government. There should be more state government run programs. You don't have this issue of shutdowns and stuff, basically, with the state. The federal government is
dysfunctional.
called for it.
Well, it
But
is
they're-
dysfunctional.
It has certain roles it can do, but most of the time they mess it up. And we need to rely on ourselves a little bit more and push the community. The
Mhm.
community's following through now and helping more. You're getting donations, you're getting cans. I see the VFW brought in what, 947 pounds of stuff.
Oh, they
today.
beat us?
Oh.
Yeah.
No, we have to go back.
I know, it was a fight. So that
We had a few more
was,
rocks.
Stop back tomorrow.
We needed more rocks.
that was the Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
And they have been wonderful donors to us ever since, I'm sure before I was here, but every November. And this year, they doubled their amount of money. Last year, I remember them, you know, they were almost crying that they didn't have as much money as they wanted. And I said, anything that you give us is wonderful, you know, but they had a very successful catfish derby.
There you go.
And,
Did you get catfish?
with,
One of the news stories was the federal government not only wants people to register again, which is going to be a challenge, but there are more work requirements. And at a county level, there's a lot of county folks that are scratching their heads how to do that. Do you know if our own county is having problems with the new work requirements for SNAP?
I
They've
haven't,
always had some, but now.
yeah, I have not heard any. I certainly have read and heard other counties having trouble with the work requirements that came on very, very suddenly.
Right.
People weren't prepared for November starting the work requirements. And they did, you know, all kinds of forms and education and teaching their workers how to do it when they've got they're short staffed to begin with. So I can't even imagine. And Sean Yetter said, you know, it's just been a nightmare. So I can't even imagine what it has been like. And just to say a little bit about work requirements. When I first came here, we had, I've forgotten the name of it, but it was the work requirements program was in effect. And so they had a work crew, and they had a person that they paid who was assigned to the work crew. And every Monday, that person would, everyone was supposed to show up at, I think it was 8 o'clock. And then they were assigned different, this is where you go, this is where you go, this is where you go. And he would take them in a van and bring them to us to help us unload our food truck. And then other things that came along, where they might paint a building after the flood. They were doing all kinds of activities, painting different government buildings, halls and whatnot. So they were, you know, pretty well utilized. raking leaves, county buildings, all kinds of things like that. And you see some of the people who need to do community service. You see some of the crews going out and they're doing that kind of labor. So here's, so we had people coming in. We had pregnant women coming in, you know, very pregnant women coming in. And the fellow would say to me, "Can you give her like another job?" "No worries, I can give her dusting." You know, you know, this kind of
Right.
thing. But she was fulfilling her hours. So this one time, I'll never forget this. I usually got to work about 8 o'clock in the morning at that time. And this woman was sitting outside on the cement outside our old building. She had, she was either coming from Chemung or not Chemung, she was coming from either, let's see, Spencer or Waverly, I can't remember which, but she picked up that one bus that buses people to DSS. So that ran, and she arrived around a little bit before 7:30 in the morning to DSS. She then walked from DSS to our building and sat down and rested, waiting for us to come there, so that she could help unload our truck at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And then she could get her bus back at 4:30 in the afternoon. If she went to DSS at 4:30, then she could get home after her workday.
Oh.
Now, is that a great use of a person's time and energy? But we're making them work. So that's one thing. Then you look at a county like ours. You've got people in Richford, you've got people in Wilseyville, you've got people in Newark Valley and in Berkshire, and many of them have no transportation. So not to worry, you can do 80 hours of volunteer service in your month. So go around, see what volunteer service you can do in Berkshire and Wilseyville.
Yeah.
Walk from neighbor to neighbor, bake cookies,
Oh, what are you gonna do?
get
Yeah.
an affidavit saying I worked this amount of hours,
We'll see, Bill. Yeah.
you know, and it's now extended to age 64. Many of the people are disabled, can't work that much. And so this is what our work requirements is going to do. You know,
That's amazing.
it's a sad day. And, you know, now if you have a 7-year-old, you can leave your 7-year-old and off you go to work.
Yeah.
But those work requirements never have worked. And Leslie Ann has a wonderful piece. I think Leslie Ann said it was the best piece that she ever saw on Medicaid. And it is the best thing I have ever seen on Medicaid too, because Medicaid, I sort of roll my eyes. I'll never understand it. You know, but this is a very palatable and readable article that I think I shared that with Marty Sauerbrei. I took Marty out to lunch and I said, I want to educate you a little bit. And because she had some, I tried to do some education of our legislators without much success.
You might
But,
do better with the new one from this church.
yeah. So, yes. So then there was then Kerm Bossard from Spencer went, and he tried his best.
Good guy.
And again, so then they had a really good article, well, a poor article, but a good article in the Penny Saver. Poor because there was a lot of misinformation that was articulated by our legislator. So I thought I got to smarten her up. So I took her out to lunch, and I said, well, I have to confess that, you know, we're friends, but I have to confess that I brought you here. I want to do a little education here. I want you to look good out there and to be saying the right thing. And
Is that why
right
she-
now.
Is that why she retired?
I think it was decided before, Jim. I do. In Marty's defense, that way.
But
Right.
so among other things, I gave her that article and I said, this is just your nighttime reading. But I want you to read that because I think there's a lot of really good information in it that will be helpful to you and to your colleagues. So she later emailed me and she said, I've shared it with all of the legislators. So I think that there's so much misinformation in the public eye and all throughout our voting processes, all of the horrible information comes out and people take it at, like this is the gospel. And you just keep repeating the lies and people remember them and think, must be so. And so I think that we have to keep on making efforts with our congressional people. So one of the things that I would like to recommend to us is that we try to educate Congressman Langworthy. So one thing, you can storm the office, be gracious. We always want to be gracious, but here's my first question. How and in what ways are you working with your colleagues across the aisle to affect the common good? Please give examples.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear him just off the
Explain.
cuff, give that answer. What's your stance on working with Democrats to assure that the 42 million who were helped by the Affordable Care Act are assured of that same protection by the end of December? Now, if they come up with another plan, okay, fine. But how is it helping people? Why did we have this shutdown? Well, the Democrats felt it was the only way. Nobody wants a shutdown. Too many people are hurt by it. But nonetheless, when are you going to come out and speak directly to and with the people who voted you into office? You appear to be hiding behind phone lines. And that's a new experience in relationship with our legislators. But isn't that the truth? I mean, Congressman Molinaro, he was out there. He spent time in my office. His executive, his top aide spent 2 hours with me. And then she said, I got to get him in to talk with you. I went to numerous showings with him. And that's the minimum that we should require of our legislators. Get out and talk to us. What, and if all of them are going to do that, well, that, and if we allow them to do that without, in some way, and instead of, what I'd suggest is instead of doing a one-day thing, every other day, it's your turn, like a prayer list. I'll call on Monday, you call on Tuesday. Oh, you call on Wednesday. You don't do like a monthly, like a daily call. And you talk to, when I've called his office, the first aid I got, it was around the USDA food. And I just left a message. I couldn't get him. No one was in the office, so I left a message. Within 20 minutes, he called the aide. And I spent probably 45 minutes on the phone with him, which was shocking because I've never spent that much time with any aide. And before he called me, He called up the USDA. He checked out our website to
Mhm.
find out more about us.
Okay.
He did his homework, so I was impressed with him.
Mhm.
And he said, anytime you just call, whenever. So I had that number and I since have used it and I've always gotten somewhere. And after a while, you could tell like, oh no, here she is again. But it was a good
We get to
number.
recognize you.
But I was impressed that this fellow was calling me from Ogdensburg or one of the other offices. I was impressed, one, that they were checking their phone lines and that he was making an effort to get back.
That was Molinaro.
Pardon?
That was Molinaro.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
a Molinaro.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I missed that.
No, that wasn't
That was
Molinaro.
language.
That was Langworth.
Oh, okay.
It was Langworth.
It wasn't
Oh.
Ogdensburg then.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
but it was, it was out there. Anything that he writes though is,
Yeah.
he's just so clueless. I wake up and thinking, okay, I'm gonna write this thing today, and I'm scratching all these things down just against what he's saying. But because he's just the party line.
Yeah.
It's just repeat after me. This is what my boss told me to say to everybody, so this is what I'm saying.
I'd be curious if what he is sending out is a script that other congressmen are sending out, that, they have, here's the party line, literally the party line, and they're sending it out to constituents, and they're not even rewriting it uniquely for our context.
Yeah.
I'm sure they edit it before they do that because
sure
they
they
know
edit it.
people are looking
I'm sure they
for
edit
that,
it.
but yeah.
The
Yeah.
talking points may not be too different.
But I think, we have lost the sense of the common good. And nobody even, everybody, well, this is my line, this is my line.
Gotta reach
But
it across. Yeah.
what serves the most people? Can we look at that? Can we begin to look at that? And, in the Republican Party at this point, if you try to look at that, then, you're anathema.
Things
The
are
same
changing.
thing on the other side.
Well, yeah,
They have drawn their lines
yep.
and thusly there's no cross aisle
Cross-pollination,
talking.
It used to be different.
Right.
it used to be different. It truly
It
did.
did.
When Ruth Bader Ginsburg was elected to the Supreme Court, selected 95% of the vote she got. We will never see that again.
No.
At least not in the current.
Mhm.
Nope.
So
Nope.
that's a big thing.
Yep.
But I think we have to do our best to keep on calling our representatives and knowing a few numbers, and that's why I think the statistics that we have are really immensely helpful,
Mhm.
because they can't say people aren't working. We can tell you,
Mhm.
it's not our experience.
Do you have a parallel in the other counties with somebody who does the same kind of work that you're doing? So that we can say, here's other counties within this congressional district with the data to show.
We do
Have
not
no
have
idea.
that.
Wow.
As an agency, we're a little anomaly,
That's because they had an
Yeah.
extraordinary exec.
And an interesting,
what we-
interesting legal setup
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's unusual and gives us a lot of leeway.
It does. It gives us the leeway that many don't have. And because we're so small, we can be agile. We can say, normally we don't do
That's a
this.
good thing.
Normally we don't, but we look at each case individually, and so we can.
And if you don't do it, other people who might be able to do something, which I appreciate your being agile and flexible.
Well, I'll give you an example of that. We had several years ago, we had a 25-year-old gentleman living with his partner, And his father and let's see, his grandfather, grandmother died. It was expected, but she'd been sick for a while. And then his father committed suicide. And then his grandfather committed suicide. And they were living in Florida. And they went to this agency that was proximate to them, and they said no, because they didn't fit in their guidelines. And when we had helped them a couple months before, and so they said, we went to 7 different agencies looking for help, and everyone said no. They needed to get to Florida, because, and his siblings, he had 4 siblings that he suddenly had to bring to Owego. You know, it was just a absolutely dreadful situation. And so something we'd never dealt with before, but you know, obviously we're going to help them. So we did, and I was subsequently on a phone call conversation with other colleagues, and I don't even know why I brought up this case, just to say something about it. And one of the people who from another agency who had said no said, thank you for sharing that story, because that person came to us and we denied him. And because we denied him, we sat down and we reviewed our guidelines and said, we've got to be able to be more nimble, you know, when something happens like that. But that's, you know, every agency has, these are our structures. And if you're part of a large organization like a Catholic Charities, this is what you, you know, you can do. So that's like the blessing. There's a blessing and there's a curse in some of it, oftentimes, but that was a great example of someone else. I was stunned that happened, and I thought, what a wonderful, good thing that happened as a result of that. So,
You never know.
you don't, you know.
You never know how far it goes.
Are there questions from people online? Do we still have anybody online? Yes, we have a couple of folks there. More people in the room.
We're lucky to have Galen.
Oh, Galen, yeah, he's
Oh,
just
he's
a wonderful young man, and very astute. And if you get the Penny Saver, you'll often see his articles in the Penny Saver.
What's his last name?
Moorhead. Yeah, he writes, he did one, it was really he did one on DEI. And I said, we're probably the only organization that can do this. And we got a lot of leverage out of that from different groups. And one donor said, I shared that article with all the people who are in our organization. Just to say, you know, DEI is important. It's what we need to be about. And yeah, so
Yeah, he is remarkable.
Good.
yeah, he's an excellent writer. We were teasing today at the lunch because he puts everything under my eye. And he said, and he told the new Rachel when she came, Rachel is our new office manager, anything you write, she will review and she'll make comments. So get used to it.
Thank you, Sister Mary.
Yeah,
for
thank
all
you.
that you're doing.
Really, it's now really,
Sounds inspiring.
I said to our last week when we met as a staff, I said, this community is an exceptional community, and I said, do not take it for granted. Because this does not happen in every community. People coming by and dropping off checks, coming in with food, everyone contributing in any way that they can. And, it's so heartwarming. And I said, we get to see the best of humanity in this work. And, we have much to give thanks for every single day. Yesterday, a gentleman came in and I said, I was just thinking about you the other day. And he brought in heaters because, it's getting cold. So he brought in space heaters. And in the summertime, he brings in fans. And we put those out. I put them out just a couple at a time and people scarf them up. But it's, it's just the thoughtful, sweet gestures of people that we see in many, many ways. The woman who ice cream was always a special thing for her. So in every summer, she buys up about 50 gallons or half gallons of ice cream, and she brings that for us to give out to people.
Wow.
It's just so many sweet things that
Literally sweet.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do and for the wonderful support that you are for us, because you are, just an outstanding support for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. Bruce, you want to close with prayer?
Sure. Loving God, you've heard the conversation. You know the needs. Guide us as together we seek to serve you in caring for our brothers and sisters who are among the least of these. For you are with them, and we find you with them. Bless our efforts, for we pray it in Christ our Lord's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Did you show me
No,
Cheryl with us?
Yeah.
To share with
Well,
them?
maybe you can find it again.